value is subjective. Value is subjective. So when I came up, it was all these arguments in these forums and on Facebook. We need a way to be evaluated. We need a way. Well, you couldn't even agree on who's going to evaluate you, let alone what you're going to be evaluated on. What the best coaches are the only ones that can teach flawless weightlifting technique. And this leads to why we created Art of Coaching. We started deep diving into coach development and what expert coaching is really perceived as. And there's this really great article written by, let me pull this up. There's this really, really, really great article written by Andy Abraham, Bob Muir, Dave Collins, and there's many others like this by Paul Potrak. And it just talks about what underpins the development of an expert coach. And Robin Jones and folks talk about, well, listen, coaching by itself is a social practice. So to try to evaluate an expert coach based on technical expertise is not good enough because it's a social practice between social beings in a social environment. And so we know that communication's at the core of it. So you already have this ambiguous field of like, how do you evaluate it? Because you can choose all the right exercises, teach them extraordinarily well. Team might still not win, right? So again, value is objective. There's no clean way to evaluate. But then you have what I found in the research is nobody was evaluating the social side of that. And I'm not talking about verbal and nonverbal. I'm talking about really what are the underpinnings of true interpersonal skills? What are the meta categories? And we found that there was nothing exclusively that focused on that. So to try to reduce the subjectivity of value and what is great coaching, which is underpinned by great communication, that's the gap we wanted to hit. So that's a huge part of it too, is when you don't have an objective way to evaluate yourself, people are going to start arguing, pointing fingers, and using their insecurity to just get louder voices to try to appear like they're the expert in the room because no key metric speaks for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It reminds me of a statement that I coined years ago when playing for the Eagles. In the absence of true leadership, false prophets appear.
I love that. Yep.
And it's true. I mean, if there's no meaningful way for people to evaluate and know whether or not they're doing a good job, it just looks like false prophets.